Fathers are the covering of the home. They're the covering of the wives. They're the covering of the children. And I really believe that they're the covering of the communities.
To say, hey, just because you didn't grow up with a dad, it doesn't mean you can't be that father that you haven't seen.
You know, don't make yourself out to be a victim. Don't forget about the woe is me, you know. And life is never easy. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. You with me? To believe in God and to pick yourself up. Prepare yourself to leave a generation that was better than yours.
This is just to shed a light and say, man, we need mentors. We need fathers.
I believe that the woman has certain traits as the nurturer, and the man has certain traits as the logic. Everybody else will probably compete with you, but I want you to outperform me. And that's a father. He wants his son to rise up and be better than him.
Hey, welcome everyone. My name is TJ McCoy. This is something very new that we're doing. I'm the founder of Empowering Young People. Empowering Young People is a nonprofit organization that is about empowering the youth of our community. We do a whole bunch of programs for kids. Something that a lot of people don't know that we're doing is we do a Fatherhood initiative program for fathers that are in need. We partner with Kids Central Incorporated to do that program. But something new that we are doing is starting a podcast. Now, the name of our group for the Fatherhood Initiative is officially called Rise Up Dads. So Rise Up Dads is the name of our Fatherhood Initiative. This whole podcast, this whole initiative, this program, Rise Up Dads, is to encourage dads to rise up, encouraging them to be in the family, be in their home, be in their children's lives. That is the whole purpose of this. We are doing this podcast to show and highlight fathers, and show and highlight people, and talk about the importance of the role of the father in the home, why dads are needed, why dads matter, how they can help change our youth today. Well, with that said, guys, I want to introduce my father, Tony McCoy. We have a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about. I'm very honored and privileged to have my own dad on my first episode of Rise Up Dads. So I want to introduce my dad. And my first question for my dad is, Dad, Tony, tell us about your upbringing. Just tell us about you.
Well, first of all, thank you, son. I really appreciate you putting me on the spot here as your first guest and with your podcast. I'm excited to be a part of it. And I like the title, Rise Up Dads, because fathers are the covering of the home. They're the covering of the wives. They're the covering of the children. And I really believe that they're the covering of the communities. The word of God says this, I think it's in Malachi, it says that he will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the sons and daughters, meaning that he is going to allow the fathers to rise up and have a heart once again for the family. And then he goes on to says, if he doesn't do that, the land will be cursed. So I really believe that a community that is cursed, a family that is cursed, is a family that is vacant of the father. Again, thank you for having me. My childhood growing up, I'm from a single family home. Never seen my father, biological father. Never had him say, I love you. But I was raised by three strong individuals. My grandfather, my grandmother, and of course, my mother. Those three individuals, man, were paramount for the way that I think, the way that I move, and my resiliency, commitment, and dedication to this thing that we call life. They were sharecroppers originally, so they were tough people. You know, they knew what work is. My grandmother would tell me when I was growing up, when I said I'm tired, she said, you don't know what tired is. So I had those three people that were, like I said, paramount in my life. They really gave me my direction for my journey.
What were some of your struggles growing up without a dad? I know I've always had the privilege of having you in my life. What were some of your struggles personally without, as you mentioned, you've never seen your father or don't know what he looks like.
Yeah.
I'm privileged to know what you look like and see you every day.
Yeah.
What are some of the struggles that you went through as a young man growing up?
Well, I think that, man, growing up a couple of times, I was always brought up too by those three people never to become a victim. So me even talking about the problems that I had was it's kind of taboo to me. But I can tell you some of the challenges, some of the things that I believe that the enemy tried to get me to struggle with. Identity, self worth, value, when you have self confidence, self value, you feel. Sometimes I used to sit and just wonder, like, why my dad left me, you know. And then I was in a turbulent situation, kind of turbulent family situation, nucleus. With my mother, she remarried and went through some stuff, some physical abuse, emotional abuse, and oftentimes I used to sit down and just say, what was about me? This joker left me and don't want me. So in retrospect, now that is what made me be try to be a better father to you and your sister and your brother. I made commitments that you guys would see me every day. I would tell you I love you every day. And even now you're grown, I still say, hey, son, I love you. It was a struggle in the sense that it was a map, if you will, or something. Because I believe you can learn from good and bad. And it was a bad thing, but it was also school for me, Some of the things that I knew I did not want to do for my family when God blessed me to have one. Those things. I grew up in enough tough area, It was, I want to get out of here. I want to have a family. I want to be this man that I've never seen really modeled for me other than my grandfather. That was some of my challenges.
Thank you for saying that. I think a lot of people, they think, the world tells us today, well, you really don't need a dad. You can do it on your own. People go through challenges, and you went through, a bunch of challenges, and that's normal with life. I think something that I really want to harp in and focus in is that you mentioned that you had grandfather, your grandmother, and then obviously my grandmother, your mom.
Yeah.
You had people in your life that said, hey, I love you. I want to see you succeed. Hard work. Those are the biggest things that I want people that are listening to this to say, hey, just because you didn't grow up with the dad, you're watching living proof. Just because you don't grow up with the father doesn't mean he can't be that father that you haven't seen. Another question I want to ask you is, what advice would you give the dads that kind of had your similar upbringing, that didn't grow up with the dad? You know what I'm saying? You like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. And there's a lot of dads that probably felt how you felt. I don't know what I'm doing. I know when you probably had my sister. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be a dad. I'm trying. You had me, you had my brother. What would you tell dads that are in your similar situation that didn't have their dad growing up, that probably don't have a great relationship with their father?
Right.
And even like you, that never seen their dad.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, but I think, TJ, the biggest thing I would tell them is, number one, don't be a victim. Don't make yourself out to be a victim. Don't forget about the woe is me. If you got a time where you're going to cry, go ahead and cry, because it's all right to cry. It's all right to be emotional. Let it out. Wipe your eyes, put the snot out your nose, and, and get up and walk into the next chapter. I think that that's so important. I think a lot of people are, especially in today's society and realm that we're in, people are looking for everything to be easy, and life is never easy. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. You with me? So you're gonna have to learn to do hard well. I mean, you're gonna have to learn as a father and as a man that nobody's coming to get you, and your legacy is really dependent upon your ability to trust God, to believe in God, and to pick yourself up. Prepare yourself to leave a generation that was better than yours. That's something that I loved about my grandparents. Grandfather didn't graduate from high school. My grandmother didn't finish elementary school, but they made a vow that all of their children would finish school and go to college, and they wouldn't miss a day, because during that time that they grew up, there was a lot of prejudice going on, and they had to go and work in the field. So my grandmother and grandfather promised themselves, because they weren't afforded to go to school or able to go to school, that their children would not miss one day in school. And they had 11, 12 kids. And not one of those kids missed one day in school. I think, 9 out of 12 of them finished college. That's what you're talking about. Having one generation, and I call that success, having one generation outperform the previous generation. So if I would give some advice to the fathers, it would simply be that. Want to raise people that's better than you. And I think people, they they get into fatherhood and motherhood because they want to be the guys that tell everybody what to do all the time for the rest of their lives, instead of raising their kids up to one day that their kids can actually lead them, in a sense. I believe that you and your sister and your brother, in the coming years, I'm going to have to sit down and let you guys lead. And I think if fathers understand that concept, that the Bible says once a man, twice a child. Now, what that simply means is, it took me a while to understand that once a man, you got a period in your life where you're going to be vigorous and strong and the leader. But then in your later years, you're going to need somebody to hold your hand and to help you out.
Right.
And I think all of that is going to weigh heavily on how you raised your kids. Do they want to be around you? Do they feel a sense of obligation to you to take care of you because of the morals and the lessons of life that you taught them? My grandparents did that. My mom did that. So I have a sense of obligation even now to watch after them. And my, grandparents, they're in heaven, but now my mother is just, what do you need, Mom? Because she did that sacrifice for me. That makes sense?
Perfect. Perfect. This is just because even just listening to you say that, I know you talked about, you define success. What does legacy mean to you? If I'm thinking about legacy, I feel like me looking at you or you looking at me, I'm your legacy. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever you go home to be with God, I'm still here to carry out what God did through you and the things that you're doing in your life. So what do you feel like legacy is?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people today, people say, my legacy is the stuff I did. My legacy is the sport I played. Like, even, I know we haven't taught sports, you played football, I played football.
Yeah.
But a lot of people talk about, okay, well, I want to be remembered for this. I want to be remembered for that. What would you tell fathers legacy is and why it's important?
Wow. I didn't think about that. But the word legacy, it encompasses a lot of things. But I would probably piggyback off of JC, Jesus. When he says, "Don't marvel over the things that I'm going to do, for you are going to do greater things." So I think legacy is more than leaving people money, houses, cars, etc. It's raising individuals that have the capacity to do greater things than you did, because I can only be remembered not by what I leave here, but what you produce. Because when you produced it, they're going to ask the question, well, who was his father? So I think that part of legacy is, raising individuals that are going to outperform you. That's my generic definition of legacy. But doing something that outlives you as well. Hopefully, Hope International, this campus, the work that we've done in Groveland will outlive me, and outlive my children. That's legacy. When you see a building, they say it's historic. That's part of legacy. It's been there for all of this time, and people understand what that building meant. So I think legacy is leaving something. An impression, a way of life, a philosophy that outlives you and that people benefit from long after you're gone. That makes sense?
Purpose.
Well, I think a pivotal moment for me that made me desire to not go down the same road that many people in my community was going down was actually when I was younger. I heard my mother cry. She was crying and she was praying to the Lord to let her have enough money to turn on the lights. Our lights were cut off. And at that time, I went in my room and prayed and said, Lord, please help me help her. That was a time in my life that I really knew, man, I have to rise up. I have to do something. And it really wasn't for my children at that time, it was for my mother. When Christina, your sister, was born, that was a huge moment. When I saw this baby girl, I actually saw me, and I was like, I don't have a, I got to pay for this girl's milk and clothes. I don't have that. And luckily, her great grandmother, Miss Allen, was a very nice Christian lady, and she treated me with respect, even though we had Christina early, and I was just like, wow. I was taken back, and I didn't like that somebody else had to help me with the Pampers, with the milk, and those things. So man, I vowed then I got to straighten up. I got to start walking right. I got to feed this baby. And I didn't want to leave her like I was left. So that was a pivotal time for me. Those two incidents, they just jump out at me. One, when I heard my mother crying, and just, understanding that a single mother of three boys was trying to make it in life and working at Frito-Lay and the ends not meeting, and just hearing her ask the Lord, please help me. And I believe the Lord did help her. I believe that he helped her by putting on my heart the weight to say, you better wake up. So that was younger. And then later on in life, when your sister was born, I looked at that. It's like, dude, I got to get up. And then later after you were born, I was like, boy, but those are times that was really pivotal to me. I think the other question was those individuals that were pivotal to me in my life. I would say high school coach, first time ever playing organized football, Bill Gerke. I never thought about football really, and I'm taking weightlifting class, and he looks at me and he says, man, turn around. And he says, you got a wide back. He goes, if you lift weights, you could go, listen to what he says. He says, you can go to college, get a degree, and get a good job and help get your mom out of the projects. Now, this guy says this to me, this short white guy says this to me. He had no idea that I heard my mother's crying in the room. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. From that moment on, I wasn't thinking about just going to college and going to getting a good job. I was thinking, if I can get a good job in college and you say I'm good enough in football, I'm going to the NFL. Everything. I mean, most people think, oh, well, they don't believe it. I said, but every time since I played football at Evans High School, my whole mindset was, I'm going to the NFL. And my grandmother was like, well, always have a sec plan B. I said, yes, ma'am. All right, get your degree. I got a degree, but I'm going to the NFL. So that time when Coach Gerke said that, and that was a couple of days after I heard my mother crying, that really, really hit me, and that this man cared enough about me to invest in me, to let me stay after school, drive me home in a predominantly black neighborhood back in the 80s. He cared. And I didn't look like him. I didn't come from the same place he did, but he's like, you're going to do that. Between him and J.B. Gordon, my defensive coach, and then also my defensive line coach, Coach Patrick. These guys really spoke life into me, that I could be a young man of character, and that they noticed my talent, in football, and was like, you can go to college. And their whole mindset was, you can go to college and get out of here. You with me? My mindset, I could go to college and I could get my whole family out of here, And that was my mindset. Some educators, Miss Kirkland, my English teacher, and Miss Payne, that I would not have passed the SAT test without them. Those young ladies, well, they were women back then, but those people really blessed my life. That was pivotal time for me.
Another question was, how did you not want to get sucked into the generational curse? Like, I mean, you talked that you never saw your father. Even like you said, you seeing my sister, you hearing my grandmother cry. That was a pivotal moment when you said, hey, I'm going to break the generational curse.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like my father was. And not to, and I think the biggest thing is, we're not condemning anybody. We don't know how to my grandfather, your father went through.
Yeah.
We
People,
don't know. We don't know.
yeah.
I'm not, and I think I would tell everybody on this podcast is that you never know what somebody's going through. You don't know what's going on in their life. It doesn't make what they did right
No.
to you. It doesn't make him right to not be in your life. But at the same time, God gives us understanding. I think God gives us grace to say, you know what? I don't know what he was going through. I don't know what was going on in his life. I'm going to choose to be different.
Yeah. I think, TJ, listen, God doesn't only give us grace, but he expects us to walk in grace and to also give it to others. And I think the biggest thing for me and that I had to do is give my father grace. I've never seen him, blah, 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 and really giving him the grace to say, he did the best he could do at his time. I don't know what, all I know is it's tough as heck being a dad. And I can imagine, sometimes I sit back and I imagine what it was like for him to have me at an early age and not to have the skills or even the ability that we have today. We can, it's nowhere as near tough as it was for my grandparents and my parents. I don't let him off the hook that he left me, right? But I don't carry that weight. So I grace him, I release him, because I believe that when you are holding on to grudges, you yourself are the one that you encage.
Yeah.
So you got to let that stuff go, man. So, and that's the big thing. I think that's the big difference. That's what it goes back. Don't be a victim, because you encage yourself if you're a victim.
Right.
Not que sera, but I just go, it is what it is. Right. What the heck are we going to do about it? It's what it is. I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to sit here and cry, or we're going to get up? If there's fathers, man, some of them are going to have records. Some of them has fighting with the baby's mama. What can you do? You gonna sit there and go, mama don't like me, so I'm doing nothing? No. You can go to Prime America. You can open up an investment account and just put $20, $30 a month in there for your kid and be like, hey, I was thinking about you, even when you wasn't with me, even when I wasn't allowed to be with you. Right. You with me? If you messed up and got a record, come on out. Do what you got to do. I used to tell you guys, I'll dig ditches, whatever it takes to make sure you got food on your table and clothes on your back and opportunity ahead of you. So I think that's what's being a man. And I think that, again, people want everything easy. Now, all of a sudden that you wake up and you're 35, it's not going to be as easy as it was when you was 18 if you would have did it right. But man up and say, I am where I am because of my choices, and I'm gonna suck it up. And I got it hard, but I want my kids to have it better.
We'll talk about that. I think that's a great thing to even talk about, because in today's society, I think people try to diminish the man.
Right.
So what is, in your opinion, that you would tell men, fathers watching this, what does it truly mean to be a man? Me personally, I had a great example in you. I saw you every day, even besides all the monetary stuff. You put clothes on my back, food on the table. You taught me morals. You taught me ethics. You taught me principles. If you didn't taught me those three things, I don't think I would be the man I am today. I think men today get so caught up in, all I gotta do is just pay the bills. All I gotta do is just give them money, all that stuff. But I don't think they truly understand that just because you do all that stuff, it doesn't mean you're raising the right person.
Right.
You have to give them morals, ethics, principles. And our morals and ethics and principle comes from our faith. We believe in Jesus Christ.
Right.
That's where our morals and ethics and principles come from. But you as a father, you have to decide, hey, I'm going to make sure my son or daughter know how to shake somebody's hand, look somebody's in the eye. I still remember being a young kid, every time you introduced me to somebody, you said, hey, speak, shake their hand, say, my name is TJ McCoy, nice to meet you. And if I didn't do that, you would say, get your butt over here and introduce yourself. My name is TJ McCoy, nice to meet you.
Right.
But then it transitioned to, okay, when I bring you around people, tell people what your goals are. It's so much stuff that goes into being a father.
And there's no manuscript for it either, except you have to get, I believe, you got to want to do it.
Right.
And then you have to get in the word. I think I taught you guys the 4 quarters of life. I really wanted you guys to really be
Can you tell what
cognizant.
those 4 quarters are?
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, spiritual, education, physical, and financial.
Yep.
And then the overtime was
Overtime.
social.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so really, just if you tell your kids that, hey, listen, you have to believe in something bigger than you.
Right. That's
Uh,
spiritual.
That's spiritual.
Yep.
Okay, and then, hey, if you're gonna be here, then you have to take care of your body because you can't be here without it.
Right.
And then if you're going to be here, go ahead and learn something. Logic, knowledge, so learn as much as you can.
Business, getting into a different field.
Whatever your heart's desire is,
Right.
learn it. And then financial. As far as I know, we still need money to live on this earth, So you got people, oh, money doesn't matter. Oh, shut up. I don't want to hang around you, brother. But because you gotta make money, and you gotta find a trade. It's something that you do, whether it's plumbing, whether it's teaching, whatever it is.
Right.
You have to find a way to keep income coming. And then once you get that income, you gotta invest that income to make streams of other income. So it comes in. And once you take care of those 4 quarters, football, then all of a sudden you got time for overtime because you really can't get a girl until you have those 4 things down pat. If you do, you're gonna get a problem.
Right.
Not a girl.
Yeah.
Not a wife.
Yeah.
It's gonna have anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely. First and foremost, faith is something that you have to absolutely want to do. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. Also, faith without works is dead. So, number one, I think faith is a mindset. Like we talked about today, we talked about don't be a victim. I was able to learn that from my father. I was able to learn, hey, son, don't be a victim. I still remember growing up, I wanted to play football, right? I wanted to play football. I wanted to be just like him. University of Florida did not want me. When Coach Muschamp was at the University of Florida, he did not want me. He thought I was too small, I was too short, whatever, which is cool. That's his opinion. I had to prove him wrong. So he told me that, hey, son, he thinks this about you. This is a situation that you're going through. And I know there's situations that dads may be going through. Hey, I can't get food on the table. Hey, my kids aren't listening to me. Hey, all this stuff is happening. But I made a decision that says, you know what? Just because that man thinks that about me, it doesn't mean that he's right. Just because you're going through a situation in your life, it doesn't mean that it's not ever going to change. Even just to talk about what we've done with the Fatherhood Initiative, we had a father that started in a halfway house. He transitioned to getting visitation with his kids. This is a dad that at the time, this is year 3 of us doing this, he had no car. So year 2, he got a car. He's going to our meetings. He's going to our in-person gatherings. He was able to get in touch with a local church. Somebody blessed that man with a car. Now he has a job. Now he's working on getting housing. Everything doesn't come overnight. And I think that's the biggest problem. Our society today, I say we live in a microwave society because you think I'm gonna press the button and it should happen in a minute or 30 seconds or whatever, but it doesn't come overnight. That's my view on how to deal with hardship. I learned how to deal with hardship through him. I mean, a very vulnerable, even just going back to that story. I remember I was at the University of Florida. Listen, I'm not 6'5", I'm not 6'4". If you look at the people I play with, they're way taller than me. I got joked on a lot. I remember playing against LSU. They said, hey, this dude's 5'11", whatever. I remember being left out in the hallway during a recruiting event, and I was left down the hallway for 30 minutes. I wanted to go in with all the other recruits, but they said, no, you stay out. Somebody will come get you. And I waited out in that hallway for probably about 30 minutes. Nobody came. And I went into the bathroom by the weight room. If anybody knows University of Florida, the weight room that's in the stadium, there's always a bathroom on the side. And I went into that bathroom and I was crying because I was like, dang, like maybe I'm not good enough. And my dad found me and he was like, hey, it's gonna be okay. He didn't say what I believe most parents would say. Most parents would go and curse the recruiter out, curse the coach out. Y'all don't know what y'all are missing. F y'all. He didn't do that. He said, come here. It's going to be okay. And he said something. He said, what are you going to do about it? He said, I know you feel this way. I know you're crying. I know you're upset. Now, look, this is not a random parent. This is a person that went to the University of Florida himself. He won the first SEC title. So, I mean, I don't like entitlement. I think entitlement is wrong. But if you're talking about any person to feel entitled to say, my son should be here, y'all should offer him, I mean, it would be him because he put in the work. He helped build. He helped build the school. He brought the first ever SEC title to the University of Florida. You know, if he felt, I'm sure he probably felt that way. No, that's messed up. But he said, no, you're not going to be given stuff in life. You have to earn it. And then from that moment on, we locked in, and I worked out, I trained, and I earned it. We went over the country, all over the country. We went back to Florida. We went to all the camps. We beat everybody at every camp. I didn't have an offer till my senior year. That's how we were able to get offers, because he said, hey, you have to show people that you are good enough. Yeah. You already know you're good enough, but you have to show people that you're good enough.
I don't think that faith is faith if it's not challenged. If everything in life is given to you, then you don't have faith. So there's going to be times in life, and it was times in my life where my faith was challenged, as well. I was diagnosed with leukemia. After I played in the NFL for 10 years, I've been saved, I paid my tithes, I go to church, and then now you have a cancer that the chance of survival, man, is very, very slim. 30%. And 30%. And they actually, life insurance say, we want to settle with you now, for something less than what you do if you wait until you die. So that was the graveness of my illness. And I did, at the times, lay in that bed and go, God, why me? I mean, haven't I been through enough? Haven't I been through that? I know it's a lot of fathers that think like that. Man, I got a bad record. I can't cut a break or anything. But again, I think that fear is false evidence appearing real. So, I've learned that nothing in life is as bad as it is, and nothing as good as it is. So again, you got to learn to do hard well, and actually here's a word that nobody likes to think. Take accountability. Mm-hmm. Just say, I messed up. Right. I couldn't sit there in the hospital and say I did something to get cancer, but maybe I ate wrong or whatever it is. But whatever the reason is that I have it, I got it. Right. And what am I going to do about it? I think in that case, when you're at Florida and you're in the bathroom, you're crying. Yeah, as a father, I hurt. Yes, I feel rage. But what can I do with this rage in me? Because I don't want anybody to think that as a father that you don't hurt when your kids hurt. You hurt, you pissed. I'm all American. I go out and tell you something, but how is that going to help the situation? And there's fathers that's going through this rise up movement. They're trying to rise up and they feel like somebody keeps punching them down. And, either the judge or the wife or life or the job. So you have to take accountability and just say, hey, whatever I'm in, I'm going to have faith. And faith it's not this mystical thing. It's just being absolutely convinced that God is on your side. And no matter how difficult it is, He is going to give you the best of your situation. That's faith. Okay, it's not that, I have faith everything's going to be easy. Right. I just have faith that God, He adopted me. The word says that God adopted us. Right. So, and then that word adopt in Greek, it actually means that it's no difference between your blood child and it's not like stepchild. You don't have stepchildren. He says, I'm your father. That's why Jesus said, say it this way. When you pray, our Father, that was taboo to the Jews. It was like, wait a minute, we can't even say God's name. Right. And you want me to call him Father? Right. Yeah. So faith is knowing that your Father has the ability to bring the best out of every situation. Here it is, right, if you don't quit. So for me, I'm going to ride this, in my mindset, I'm going to ride this cancer, this leukemia thing out. I'm going to be that man. And I don't think we put enough emphasis on that. I like the word rise up, because you have to rise up. And for the man, you being the foundation of the family, that's what the foundation of a house, everything is built on that.
Right.
You with me?
Yes, sir.
So if a window busts, somebody can come replace that. If that foundation is cracked, it's demolished. They say you can't build anything on this. So we have to take that ownership and say, no, man, I know it's tough. I know life sucks right now.
Right.
I know it seems like my faith isn't working,
Right.
but I chose this.
Right.
And I'm gonna take accountability of the times I screwed up, and I'm gonna take these cards that I'm dealing with and trust that God's gonna some kind of way show me that and bring me out a winner. And he that's why he says, again, I would never leave you nor forsake you.
Right.
You with me? He has to say that because there's sometimes we feel like we're alone. And sometimes we feel like his heart is turned against us instead of with us. So we have to believe that, man. And then I don't think Christian is being weak by any means.
Right.
And you got to fight. Now, I don't mean punch somebody in the face and won't get in jail and nothing like that, but you really got to fight your own self, your own mindset that I want to quit, the mindset that why is it that, I mean, sometimes that I cried myself to sleep and just fought myself while I was sleeping and woke up the next day and said, it's another day, let's try it again.
But even fight against the things that are trying to hold you back, that's trying to hold your kids back, your family back.
Yep.
I think that dads don't understand is that, like we said, you have to provide. Everybody gets caught up in provide, but people don't think about protect.
Yeah.
They don't think about that. So the next thing I kind of wanted to go in, because we talked about a whole bunch of stuff today, but empowering young people, our focus is on the youth. And the biggest thing why we're even doing the Fatherhood Initiative, because we believe that we can impact fathers in a positive way, is that it will have a domino effect on the youth. And that's super important today. If you look at everything that's going on today, with school shootings, you look at kids, doing certain things that they shouldn't do, crime, all that stuff. It's a whole bunch of, turbulent and negative things that are happening with our youth today. And I personally believe it's because we have a lack of fathers. I mean, for the longest time, we have a lot of people that grew up in single mother homes. You're proof that, hey, you can survive it, but the stats say it's not likely for that to happen.
Right.
Something that I wanted to even talk about, just a statistic. This is from fatherhood.org. It says about 17.6 million children, nearly 1 in 4, live without a biological step or adopted father.
Wow.
Another statistic, most single parent homes are headed by women. About 80% of single parent households are led by single mothers. This is by Owen's House. There's a lack of because this is not to blame women. This is not to blame single mothers. But because of the things that we see today that are going on with our youth, schools, all this stuff, it's not to condemn or anything like that. This is just to shed a light and say, man, we need mentors. We need fathers. So I wanted to ask you, Dad, how do you think fathers can impact all the problems that are going on with our youth today?
I feel like I might get in trouble with this question. But we equally need a woman like we equally need a man because they're two different people.
Right.
So I don't have a feminist mindset.
Right.
I have a mindset that where it's a family and that both of them are equally needed.
Right.
I believe that the woman has certain traits as the nurturer, and the man has certain traits as the logic individual. You with me? And I'm a Trekkie, and I used to watch this, the old Trekkie was Spock and Star Trek and Spock, and Spock was always logical. Everybody else be losing their minds in emotion, and Spock was that's not logical. And that's, I believe, what the father offers. He offers that logic. Women are naturally more emotional. And most people, some feminists will disagree, but I just really believe that we all, if we really sit down and say that's part of their makeup, that doesn't make them weak, but let's just make them women.
Right.
So I think when you are raising children, what you have is when the father logic is removed, what you have is particularly in our male young men, you have young men that are raised with pure emotion with me,
Right.
without the logic that the father brings to the family. So therefore, this young man goes out, and when he's approached with people, he is all emotional. He's quick to get angry, and those things, which is not a bad for if it's in its right place. And I think our females are now, without the father, being brought up to fend for themselves,
Right.
and that's where we get this whole feminist movement, if I can say all this stuff. And then, but I think that the absentee of the father hurts both the male and the female child. More so, that's why we see a lot of this. My hypothesis is that we see a lot of crime because we have a lot of men that are not able to control their emotions. And I believe I contribute a lot of that to the absence of the father. Now, that's my terminology of it. I expect you to be composed. I expect you to control yourself. I expect you to defend when it is needed. I expect you that if someone comes and something bad happens, that you don't get mad. You actually evaluate the situation and find the best course of exit so that
Think before you act.
yes. And I think that that is what men, good men, offer to their family. No matter what race they are from or how much money they have, a father, like I said to you guys, I'm the only man in this world that wants you to do better than me. Everybody else will probably compete with you, but I want you to outperform me. And that's a father. He wants his son to rise up and be better than him. And I'm going to cheer. I'm not going to be, oh, well, why are they giving him that? I'm like, yes. You with me? So if they miss that, they miss a person cheering for them. If the father's removed from the family, they don't have a genuine man that is rooting for them to be successful. And then they go out in the world and somebody say, I want you to be successful because they're looking for that.
Right.
A kid is looking for that. If he don't find it, he needs it.
Right.
Then he don't have it what you need. It's the Maslow law. Again, you don't have your basic needs met, you become violent. You do whatever you have to do to get it. So that's why the father is so important. And I know there's situations where you can't live in the same house with the woman and all of that, but that doesn't excuse you from picking up the phone, writing the email now. I'm finna say a letter, but that's just show my age. But you can FaceTime her. Hey, I'm thinking about you, boy. I love you. You know, you can do those things. I'm not here to say that everybody's gonna have the same situation that you and I have.
Right.
And I'm a pastor. I'm a man. I'm from the inner city. I know that that doesn't happen. But there is nothing in this world that's going to keep me from being a part of my kid's life.
Absolutely.
You with me? I'm not going to have it. And I think that every real man, whether that woman leaves or you leave or whatever happens, you owe it to them to give them the logic and the stability part of who you are.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're damning them to destruction.
Absolutely. I think that's even like you mentioned the stuff earlier, you said, I told your sister, stick them up. If we look at, how some of our young ladies dress, how some of our young men dress today, you don't have people doing that. You don't have dad saying, hey, young daughter, I love you. Hey, put some pants on. Don't go outside with short, tight pants on.
Right.
Don't go outside wearing a bonnet to
Right.
school or wearing Crocs to school. Look professional. And this is not condemning. Even on the young men's side, something that has really impacted our youth is, a lot of bad culture. We even in our youth group, our EYP events that we do, we have young men coming to our events in ski masks. They call them shiesties today, but they're coming to youth group in ski masks, shiesties, their pants hanging low. And I'm not condemning the young man because he doesn't know any better. And we talk about different things of like, hey man, you don't need to wear that. You don't, and I hate to say this, but hey, you look like a criminal when you're walking around with the mask and nobody can see your face. You're fitting a profile. And that's not me trying to be racially insensitive. That's not me trying to say, hey,
Are you trying to
everybody.
infringe on their freedom of expression?
Yeah,
But you have to understand that whatever you do, it comes with a cost. If I get up, I have freedom of speech, but if I get up in the middle of a movie and yell fire,
yeah,
I'm causing harm.
right,
So if you wear a shiesty ski mask or whatever, you got to be able to understand that unless it's 30 degrees below zero
yeah.
outside in Florida, that
In Florida,
people are gonna,
right,
they're gonna have their right to think a certain way,
right,
right or wrong.
right.
And I think a lot of people they push the envelope these days, just with freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and then when they are questioned, what does this mean?
Right,
They get offended. So no different than an officer stopping you, and
right,
you don't know what that officer's going through. You don't know if he had an argument with his wife before he came to work.
right,
But your job is to obey that authority.
right,
The word tells us
right,
to obey the law of the land.
right.
So if he stops, good evening, officer. Here, license registration. Here, you don't. No, I don't have to legally and all this. What are you doing? What? And then you go, well, he did. No, just comply.
Right.
You with me? If I go out,
Mhm.
if he is wrong, I'm gonna go out
Yeah.
doing right.
Right.
And then you guys are gonna get filthy rich because he did wrong
Right.
and I was doing right.
Right.
And my grandparents used to say, whatever happens, just make sure you're in the right.
Right.
And we don't have parents saying that anymore.
Mm-mm.
That's not a way of life.
They're letting today parents, they're letting culture raise their kids versus them raising their kids. And again, I want to make it clear. I'm not trying to push religion on anybody. Our religion is Christianity. So whatever you get, your morals and principles, that's where you get them from. So you have to raise your kids. Don't let don't let a rapper, don't let entertainer, don't let a political party or anybody raise your children. You should raise your children.
Right.
And this is why it's important for fathers to be in the home, because we have to rise up and lead in that direction. That's why it's so important. And even going back to the story with the young man that, like, the young kids that wore this stuff, that are, even I'm finding myself parent them. Something that was very touching that happened last night at our youth program is that, kids that have been coming to the program wearing the mask, young ladies wearing short shorts. They come and for the first time, we've had young men come and they're not wearing it. And one thing that my wife, she told the young man that usually wears that mask, she said, "Hey, you look great. I love to see your hair. You look like somebody. You look like a great young man. You look like you're about serious business." And you know what that young man did? He smiled. He smiled and was like, he said, "Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much." And I think people don't understand that, hey, just because you're correcting, I know it's hard as a mother or as a father to correct, and you feel like, I want my kids to love me. I want them to like me. But growing up, I didn't like him all the time.
Really?
Being honest, I didn't like him all the time. Your kids aren't gonna like you all the time.
No.
But the number one thing is I respect him. And now that I'm older, I'm 28 now, I'm gonna be 29 this year. Now that I'm older, I see all the little small things that he was trying to keep me from, because I'm able to look at my life, and I'm also able to look at other people that grew up with me and see where their life is. And that's not me condemning people, and everybody has different circumstances. But I'm able to say, you know what, Dad, thank you for not letting me do that. Thank you for not telling me not to act like this and act like that. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for whooping my behind because I did something crazy.
And thank you, TJ, also thank you for just saying I was wrong. You know, because there was times when, as a father, I was wrong, and I think this is a very good time to say that. There's sometimes I came to you and saying, "Listen, what I did was wrong, and dad is wrong." That still doesn't take my authority away.
Right.
You know, I'm still dad,
Right.
but I want to tell you I'm wrong and I'm sorry. And now go and clean your room.
Right.
You know, and
Exactly.
that was it.
Right.
And that was it. And I'm going to do better. And I think that what happens again, people get this ideology that being a parent that you got to have it right all the time, and
Right.
when you don't have it right, it kind of expels you from being a parent, or you're failing at it.
Right.
And the
Right.
whole thing is, I came to you guys a lot and go, man, I'm sorry,
Right.
that is wrong,
Right.
and then say, okay, all right, you okay? Give you a hug and say, okay, now go clean your room,
Yep.
get this right, and keep it going.
Right. But even in hindsight, I look at even this whole interview, we talked, you didn't know your father.
No.
You didn't know what he looked like. So now that I'm a grown man, and I think a lot of and any dad that's listens is that's grown, that didn't have a father, that or maybe you had a father and maybe he didn't do the best job, whatever it is. I look at him and I say, you know what? You didn't have a dad. So who am I to condemn you for doing the best you could? Who am I to do that? You're only doing the best you know how. And that's where I think, a lot of dads today, if you and this is something that's just coming on my heart. If you had a dad growing up and you don't have the best relationship, get to know your father. Some dads only know one part of the story. Some of you out there, you only know your mother's part of the story. You don't know his part of the story. And that's not condemning your mother, that's not coming down on your mom, but know his story. And then you come up with your opinion. There's his side, her side, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So I challenge people to do that. Don't condemn people that you don't know. We live in a society today where we condemn people based on a clip, we condemn people based on a post, and you don't know the actual man or woman that you're speaking of. So that's something that I challenge all the dads that have a dad in their life to do. Get to know them,
Yeah.
especially if you're grown, like myself. Get to know your father. I'm able to know him. And I really feel like I'm at a point in my life where I understand my father. I actually get where he's coming from. I actually understand his view and his perspective on life. So that's why I feel like I have a great relationship with my dad. So that's a challenge that I want to put out to all men out there. Find your dad, get to know him, let go of the anger, let go of the pain, find out the truth.
Oh,
Guys, this is episode 1. So we're gonna do a lot more of these. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're gonna keep this up. We're gonna interview more dads. Make sure you like our channel. I know we're gonna create a YouTube. We're gonna push clips out. We're gonna create a social media page on Instagram just to get these clips out here, because it is so important that we get fathers back in the home. You really don't understand how important you are. And if there's any women watching this that want to support what we do, want to support Rise Up Dads, whenever you see a clip, share it. If you know a father that you feel like, man, this would be a great father to interview, make sure you put in the comments and say, hey, or tag them, interview this dad, interview that dad. Because all we want is just for fathers to get back in the home of any race, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. We want all fathers to get back into the home.
rise up.
Rise up.
Amen.
God bless you guys. And just be on the lookout for more of these episodes. Thank you.